Hi guys, welcome to Winsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah and I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. We are at the cottage, as you can see, and we're actually going to be working on the bed right here today, getting it cleaned up for the spring season. Now this bed is a bit of a leaf catchment area, as you might be able to tell. We cleaned it out in the fall, got all the leaves out, but even if we clear it out over the course of the winter and the way the wind blows, they just kind of collect in here. And we probably should have had this cleared out a little while ago, as we already have some bulbs and other plants poking through. My dad actually started working on this earlier today. He has done a couple of small projects that we'll check in on. And one of the things he did is he took off the fencing, so this is better able to be accessed, and do some pruning that we need to do. We may put a tiny bit of mulch on this. We did it last fall, so it doesn't really need it. But we'll probably do just a skim coat so it looks nice and fresh and new. The goal is to get this cleaned off. It is incredibly cold. It was supposed to be a little warmer today, and I was actually going to be working in the backyard. However, the wind is blowing quite fiercely. It's about 20-25 miles per hour, and what was supposed to be a beautiful sunny day has turned a bit cold. So I'm not exactly sure how long I'm going to last out here. My goal is to make it an hour and see what kind of dent I can make then. I'm not sure if my dad's going to come out and join me or if he'll check back in later today. We'll see how that goes. He has, like I said, has already been out here, so he is inside getting warm. So my goal is, I'm really hoping we can get this all cleared out and the fence put back on today. That might take a little bit longer than an hour. I do have a tendency, especially this early in the gardening season, to underestimate how long things take me. Because I forget that I'm not in my peak gardening condition. I don't know if anyone else who has a winter feels like this, but I always think that I can come out going like the same amount that I did in the fall when I stopped gardening because of the winter, and my body just can't do that quite the way it used to. I did that backyard cleanup where I really didn't work all that long. It was like maybe 2.5 hours worth of cleanup, and the next day I was feeling it. So hopefully I can just do little bite-sized pieces as I work myself up to peak season gardening condition and make some progress out here along the way. I'm not sure, this video might span a couple days. I know we have some other things we want to get done. I'm not sure if I'm going to break them into other projects or do it all here. But for now, get you set up and we'll just do a time lapse and see how much progress you can make. And then at the end of this video, I'll give you an up close look at the crocus that are coming through, which are just beautiful. So let's get you set up and we'll go to town. Okay, so that ended up being about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes or so for me. We didn't quite get this bed completely done, but we got the bulk of the leaves off. So I thought I'd show you a quick look at what it looks like from this side, as well as give you a closer look at what the leaves we were picking up looked like, because they were excessively wet. That's just getting the last little bits here and cutting back. If you saw those things, those are fern things. I think they have something to do with seedlings, but I'm not entirely sure. But we basically got all the leaves off of it. We didn't do a perfect job, mostly because it was so wet. You can see like it's visibly damp in areas. You can also see that we uncovered a huge chunk of the crocus that we planted last year that are looking good. Some of them were under the leaf cover a little too long, so the yellowy, they'll perk up now that they're exposed to the sunlight. This one unfortunately did lose its bloom in some of the leaf removal. You also may have seen me come along and sprinkle some stuff around the crocus, though they're supposed to be deer and like rodent resistant. You'll note some enterprising animal has come along and eaten these guys. So we just added some Repelzol. They took I don't know if you can really see that, but they did chew the top of that and a couple of other bits. They actually had pulled the crocus bulb out that I was able to replant. So I just added some Repelzol. Given that there were only a few with this damage, I think they probably tried them, nibbled them, and decided, you know what, they're not that great. But the Repelzol will just make sure that they leave them alone. Other things in here we took care of. I cut back a lot of the leaves on the hellebores that were a bit tattered, though this one is already blooming. This is one we planted last year. It's a Trader Joe's special, which means I don't know what it is, except I bought it at Trader Joe's. Not pretty. And then this one over here is also flowering. This is one we transplanted from under the dead crabapple tree at my house. It's a part of the wedding party mix. It too will harden up a little bit now that it is exposed. I unearthed the coral bells, gave them a bit of a haircut. 1, 2, 3. There's one more hellebore right here that I took off one of the buds. Initially, when I started removing stuff, I was using a rake. And then my dad came out and pointed out that that was probably too damaging. And he was right. So I switched to just hands pulling it up. In some areas, we were lucky because it was so wet that it was kind of like in sheets of stuff you could just pick up. But that was one of the things I damaged before I switched to this method. The other thing I did want to point out in here, bluebells are coming up. If you noticed, they're all along the back, so that will be really pretty later this, probably June-ish in this area. The one thing I didn't note that I'm going to be keeping an eye out as the season progresses is we planted a juga in this area, and I am not seeing any signs of it. I'm hopeful it will come back and that the leaves did not smother it, but we've got, those are, in case you're wondering, our forget-me-nots in this little thing. Didn't really prune anything. We'll give that a little bit longer because it's still quite cold, probably another 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll prune back the hydrangea standard and the 2 incredible hydrangeas. That's really going to do it for this tonight. I'll probably come in. We are going to re-put up the fence and add some mulch in areas, and I'll show that. But this front bed is pretty much ticked, ready to go. I wanted to show you. This is one of the loads. You can see just how saturated, like standing water. We actually didn't even see many worms in this area, and I think it was too wet for them. So I think that's going to be it for tonight, but we'll be back in this video still just showing you what this looks like at the very end as we button it up for this season. as you might be able to tell, with this project we had to get some fencing supplies to finish it, which we finally did. And we ended up putting the fence in. It's not 100% complete because we do want to make a change in this area, but I'm not sure when that change will be made. So I thought I'd show you the cleaned up project, which took a little bit longer than anticipated, as well as the fence that you saw us put in. Right now we just have this laying down because we don't really want to cut it per se right now, but we did take all these posts and put them in, as you saw, and we have raised it so that the fence is just on this side gracing the top of the rocks. I'll show it to you from the other side in just a moment, but it looks like it's just gracing the top of the rocks there as well. It took us a little bit to figure this all out, and then it was kind of a trial and error a little bit as we got all the posts to the right height. This area right here is the thing that we want to change. We would like to actually add a gate here that you can open and close. We have a makeshift gate that we don't really love, so we'd like something a little bit more permanent, a little bit more easy, that you don't have to unclip things as you need to get in and out. But with all the projects we have, I'm guessing this is going to be a fall or next spring project. So for now, what we're going to do is anytime we're in here, we will just kind of move the roll like this, and then when we're done, it will actually be hooked to this T-post right here. This fencing is actually going to be replaced. It's quite old. I think it's probably 11 years old, and it's showing its age. You can see it's breaking in bits. And we actually are going to change this a little bit as well, in that we are going to stop the fencing here. So this whole section is gonna be taken out to the bottom tier over there because it's actually a significant drop here that deer could technically get up, but it seems unlikely that they would, because they'd have to do basically a vertical jump into bushes, which I don't really think they will. They could do a vertical jump, but they don't like to jump where they can't see the other side. So I'm thinking that where I'm standing is the one place they might try to do that, but we do have a couple plants here, and I might stick some sunflowers or something here just to kind of provide some vertical barrier to discourage them from doing that. We're going to try it this year and see what happens, because the other thing we don't like about this fence along here is it just catches leaves. If we were able to remove just this section, they would just continue blowing, which would help us a little bit. So because we're going to end this here, we are going to be still fencing this, but replacing it. We're just going to kind of not cut this yet as we figure stuff out. It'll be a bit of a pain for a little while, but honestly not too bad. We'd rather deal with the pain for a little while than cut the fencing and then regret that we cut it later. So we're just keeping our options open at this point in time. And here is a look at it from the driveway. So you don't really see that there's a couple areas you might see it's floating, but in general you don't. And this isn't to keep rabbits or anything like that out, it's just to keep deer out. So we did a better job at hugging the driveway. I will admit, obviously, that it looks a lot better without the fencing, but we just can't really do that here with the deer pressure we experience, and even the sprays and stuff don't really do enough. So this is what we do to make sure that we can still have the garden we love, but preserve it so it's not eaten, because there's been a couple years where they have gotten in and completely devastated the either killing off plants or eating them down to nubs, so the entire year is just a wash. So this will help prevent that if we can. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe so you can see our garden here at the cottage, as well as our city garden. We document 2 different gardens in the years to come, as well as throughout the season. Because the other thing that is in this area that you won't have seen is it's completely filled with ferns that will be popping out of the ground soon enough. So again, I really appreciate you joining me today, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.